The blizzard had consumed the northern mountains for 3 days straight, turning the world into an endless white void. Lucas trudged through knee-deep snow, his thermal suit struggling against the -40 cold. Behind him, 2 German shepherds, Max and Luna, pressed close to his legs, their enhanced cybernetic implants glowing faintly beneath their fur. "Command, this is Ranger 7. Still no sign of the downed vessel. "Visibility is near 0, Lucas spoke into his comm unit, his breath forming crystalline clouds. Static crackled back. The mountains were a dead zone for communications, a fact that made rescue operations nearly impossible. But Lucas had volunteered anyway. When the distress beacon had been detected, most assumed it was just another satellite fragment. Lucas knew better. The signal pattern was too deliberate, too desperate. Max suddenly barked, his augmented senses detecting something beyond human perception. Luna joined in, both dogs pulling toward a ridge to the east. Lucas trusted them implicitly. Their modifications weren't just military hardware. They were extensions of his own instincts. "Show me," he commanded. The dogs led him through a narrow pass, their paws finding purchase where Lucas's boots slipped. After 20 minutes of climbing, they emerged into a small valley sheltered from the worst of the wind. There, half buried in snow, lay a craft unlike anything Lucas had seen in his 15 years as a frontier ranger. It wasn't human-made. The hull's organic curves and the strange bioluminescent patterns flickering across its surface made that clear. But what stopped Lucas's heart wasn't the ship. It was the 2 small figures lying motionless in the snow beside it, and the peculiar creatures standing guard over them. The animals, if they could be called that, resembled earth dogs only in the most abstract sense. They had 4 legs, certainly, and fur of sorts, but their eyes held an intelligence that sent chills down Lucas's spine. Their scales shimmered beneath white fur, and their mournful howls carried a harmonic complexity that human vocal cords could never produce. As Lucas approached, the alien dogs positioned themselves protectively over the 2 children, or what Lucas assumed were children. They were small, no bigger than human 10-year-olds with crystalline skin that refracted the dim light into rainbow patterns. Twins, he realized, identical in every way. Their clothing had been insufficient for Earth's harsh climate, and now they lay still, their breathing shallow and irregular. The alien dogs growled, a sound that resonated in Lucas's chest cavity. Max and Luna growled back, but Lucas raised his hand. "Easy, everyone easy." He could see it now, the desperation in those alien eyes. The same desperation he'd seen in Max's eyes years ago when he'd found him wounded in a combat zone. These creatures weren't threats. They were begging for help. Lucas made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Not because it was wrong, but because of what it cost him. He began removing his thermal suit. The cold hit him like a physical blow, stealing the breath from his lungs. His body immediately began the process of shutting down, prioritizing his core. He had minutes, maybe less. But the alien children had less than that. "Max, Luna, close formation," he ordered through chattering teeth. Lucas worked quickly, wrapping the first twin in his thermal suit, then using his emergency blanket for the second. The alien dogs watched, their aggression melting into something that looked heartbreakingly like gratitude. The twins stirred slightly, responding to the warmth, their crystalline skin beginning to pulse with faint light. But Lucas was failing. His fingers had gone numb, his movements sluggish. He'd made the calculations. He couldn't carry both children and survive the journey back. Hell, he probably couldn't survive regardless. The unthinkable part wasn't that he'd given up his protection. That was just human stubbornness. The thing that had carried humanity to the stars despite every logical reason to stay home. The unthinkable part was what came next. Lucas activated his ranger beacon, not the standard distress call, but the priority evacuation code, the one that meant civilian casualties, immediate extraction required, operative expendable. He was calling in a rescue for aliens while marking himself as acceptable losses. Then he did something even command couldn't have predicted. He lay down in the snow between the 2 alien children, using his own body heat to supplement the thermal gear. Max and Luna immediately pressed against him, their cybernetic cores generating additional warmth. The alien dogs, understanding the gesture, positioned themselves on the other side, creating a living cocoon around the twins. Good boys. Lucas whispered to all 4 dogs. All good boys. His vision began to blur. The cold was winning, but through the haze he could see the twins' eyes opening, brilliant golden eyes that held the wisdom of a species he'd never met. They looked at him with confusion, then understanding. One of them reached out a small crystalline hand and touched Lucas's face. Warmth flooded through him, not physical warmth, but something else, something that pushed back against the darkness creeping in from the edges of his consciousness. The last thing Lucas heard before the world went white was the sound of VTOL engines overhead. The last thing he saw was Susan, his commander, his friend, rappelling down through the blizzard, her face a mask of fury and relief. Lucas woke 3 days later in a medical bay. Susan sat beside his bed, her expression unreadable. "You're an idiot," she said flatly. "Did they?" Lucas croaked. "The twins survived. Their species is called the Valor. They're dogs, too. Apparently those things are bonded companions, can't survive without their charges." Susan leaned back. "You want to know the unthinkable part, Lucas? The twins' father is the Valor High Chancellor. Their ship was sabotaged by rivals who wanted them dead. You didn't just save 2 kids. You prevented an interstellar war." Lucas tried to smile. "Just another day saving the galaxy. The Valor want to honor you. They're calling you the Impossible Compassion. Apparently their species abandoned mercy millennia ago. They'd forgotten what it looked like." Susan's voice softened. "You reminded them, Lucas. You reminded all of us." Through the window, Lucas could see the twins playing with all 4 dogs, Earth and Valor together, as if they'd always been packmates. "That's what humans do," Lucas whispered. "The unthinkable."